Hello everybody, this is the deliberations for the safer speeds for Selwyn. We'll start the meeting with the karakia. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga, kia makina kina, ki uta, kia mataratara ki tai, ehi aki ana te atakura, hei tio, hei huka, hei hau, ti hei Māori ora. There's no apologies to note. No extraordinary business that we need to place on the agenda. There's no conflicts of interest that anybody needs to declare relevant to this? No?
The only conflict I'd have is that I live in Darfield and travel along McLaughlin's, Greendale and Tramway Road almost daily.
John just mentioned that he travels from Darfield on McLaughlin's and Greendale roads often. I don't think Telegraph Road. I don't think we can hold people travelling on Selwyn roads as an issue to deal with. It probably adds to the usefulness of knowing those roads. The first thing we need to do is to confirm the minutes from the hearings that we had when we had people come and present to us. So they're in the report. If anybody has any comments on those minutes or otherwise would like to move that they're an accurate record. Denise has moved. John, you second. All in favour? Aye. So that's carried. Thank you. And now we have the staff. I'll hand over to the staff to introduce the report and the topic to us.
So good afternoon, councillors. So we're here this afternoon to work through the Safer Speeds Hearings Panel deliberation. Before we go, I'll just introduce Sam Sharland on the far side and Ravi, who have been the team that have been working through on this. Just also before we jump into it, Councillor Very, you asked for the information to be provided with the road classifications on. We've just reworked that, so I'm just going to pass these round to you now. All right, so you should have copies on your desks with the road classifications on there as well. Is that yes? Cool. Okay, so moving into this then, just before we go in further, just wanted to give everyone a bit of background as to how we came about with this as well. So the consultation that we have to go through on here, council has to use New Zealand Transport Agency's tools like Mega Maps and the Speed Management Guide, because they're legally required to follow national land transport rules, which ensures speed limits across local and national networks remain safe, consistent, and backed by standard infrastructure risk data. So we have to do those. We have to use these tools to ensure that we meet regulatory compliance. We have data consistency. We make evidence-based decisions, and the integration is identical across all other local and council roads across the rest of New Zealand nationally. So just some of the things we have to use is under the land transport rule, the setting the speed limits 2024, council is required to prepare a cost-benefit disclosure statement. So that disclosure statement is what went out for consultation and what everyone's received throughout as well. We also are mandated to use tools like Mega Maps. So Mega Maps is one of the tools NZTA requires us to use because it ensures collective safe risks are captured, personal safety risks, and infrastructure risk rating as well. That all works into mean operating speeds, which all informs the cost-benefit disclosure statement. Now, there are some limitations to that. Now, the limitations on there is it provides useful comparison to expected safety and travel time impacts, but it relies on historic crash data, traffic volumes, operating speeds, and standard modelling assumptions. But as it fails to capture micro-level dynamic changes in the road environment, such as localised driver behaviour adjustments, physical intersection layouts, and the immediate risks, increased frustration through driver manoeuvres, which is why staff have also added context into these reports, which has informed those cost-benefit disclosure statements to give you the broadest scope possible to help you make your decisions. Have you got any questions before you jump into it?
Any questions from John or Denise?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Push your button, John.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Thank you. The estimated safety impacts, those are from reported crashes and reported incidents. So naturally enough, if nothing's been reported, it shows 0.
Yes, that's correct. So we have to use all the crash statistics, the crash analysis statistics that we have available to us, which measures deaths and serious injuries. And what we've also ended up using is local FENS information to cross-reference what the national data is telling us.
And I note too, and it's much appreciated, that the crash data has been included in the overall summary sheet. So going back to the MIGA maps, just wanting to confirm that the current mean operating speed has a significant amount of legitimate data that informs it.
Yeah, so the Mega Maps, I'll just give you a little bit more detail around it. But Mega Maps is an online digital geospatial tool used by local authorities and transport agencies for the speed management and road safety planning. So there's a fair amount that goes into that, but predominantly it's off GPS telematic data. So that's primarily, so GPS tracking profiles provided like from navigation partners like TomTom, eRoads, things like that, that measures the GPS coordinates, the speeds, the harsh braking, but what it does is it strips out all the personal details of the fleet identifies, but then pulls it all together and aggregates the risk.
Thank you. And then my final point more generally, that in regards to the consultation, can I just have confirmation from Council that the consultation process meets all the statutory and policy requirements so that the information that we've got in the feedback we can rely on?
I can confirm that from a legal perspective, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. As there's no more general questions, I guess we just move through the list of roads and have a conversation about each of them. We'll use the spreadsheet list to work through the order, and the first one on the list is Arthur's Pass, which is proposed to reduce from 50 to 40 kilometres an hour and all of the smaller side roads off from the main highway. Who would like to make some comments first? Denise.
I'll go first, since there's only 3 of us. It was interesting that we had someone come to speak to us about these, and there seems to be a bit of a consensus of opinion that you couldn't really go faster on those small side roads, and they were worried about the visual impact of putting the speed signs. And I think that the feeling I got from what they said and from reading some of the other submissions is that really it should be low. Well, it should go from 50 to 40, but not clutter the place up with too many road signs. Or is it a case that we just leave it well alone, because really it's the state highway that's the biggest problem going through there? And John's more familiar with the area, so I don't know if he'll be able to tell us a bit more.
Yeah, no, thank you. Following on from Councillor Carrick's comments, that the issue from my community engagement in relation to Arthur's Pass Village is that the state highway runs through, and the residents are very keen to get the speed reduced, but that's an NZTA matter, not for the council to consider. However, when we look at all the side roads that run off, most of them are unsealed, several of them are narrow and they're not very long. So the point, I think, the feedback that was received, whilst it was diverse, the main submitter for Arthur's Pass came up with the view that there would be little practical safety benefit and reducing the limit, and also there would be the impact visually of having 40 kilometre per hour speed limit signs put up in an area of reasonable significance, as most of it's or close to or near the national park. And maybe the way forward would be that at this stage I'm mindful not to approve it, and that consideration be given to, with the continued engagement with NZTA, that when, hopefully rather than if, there is a reduction in the speed limit on State Highway 73, that may be the opportunity to have better engagement with the locals to get an understanding of what they would feel would be appropriate on the roads that are currently designated. So at this stage, waiting to hear if there are any other comments, I'm mindful not to recommend the reduction.
Thanks, John. Denise? Yes, so staff have not recommended that the reduction goes ahead, which is aligned with the comments that you've been making. This little small side roads, currently the speeds range between 8 and 17 k's, and there haven't been reported crashes, so there's no great impetus to put 40k signs up, because people are already driving to the conditions and going slower. So I think we'll accept the recommendation of staff not to do anything with that road. The next is Selwyn Huts, which is also recommended to reduce, or was consulted to reduce from 50 to 40, I should say. And this one, the recommendation from staff is to do so, but that's entirely up to the committee to discuss and decide. So who would like to ask questions, make comment?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As part of the drive-through that was undertaken in relation to this with the other two members of the panel, I observed that there were speed bumps which had a warning sign of 20 kilometres an hour. And the other thing that I think is playing large in my mind is that the current mean operating speed is currently well below the proposed reduction, and that in the last 5 years there's been one non-injury reported crash.
Denise?
I'd be inclined to say it's the same as Arthur's Pass. The community feedback, there's 105 in support, 92 against, so there's not a big difference there. And on our drive-through, they have got 20 kilometre an hour signs and speed bumps anyway. So I don't know that it's something that we need to do. That would be my thoughts.
Yeah, I recall when we drove through there, John, yes, there are the speed humps every 50 odd metres with 20 kilometre indicative signs. There isn't a lot of crash data, and the current mean speed is about 21 k's, and the estimated new would be 18. So I'm very much 50-50, I guess, on whether you would place a 40 kilometre sign there.
Mr. Chair, that I suppose the reason I didn't give an indication was I was keeping an open mind, and looking at the fact that we've got the, which is not unusual in a survey like this, And just so that it's on the record, my view is that if somebody feels strongly for or against, they generally submit. So if people don't submit, I think that sort of is a statement in its own. And we've got 5 of the residents against it, 3 for. And of those that sort of use the road, it changes. But I would tend to say that for the sake of making change for saying saking, I would go for not reducing it.
Okay, I'm just going to jump back because I've been reminded we actually need to do a little bit more formally than I did previously. So for Arthur's Pass, if we remember where we got to, and we informally decided to accept the staff recommendation. To make it formal, we need to have someone propose that we accept the staff recommendation not to reduce the speed, a seconder, and then we'll vote.
Okay, I'll propose it.
So Denise has moved that we accept the staff recommendation not to change the speed at Arthur's Pass. John has indicated he's happy to second that. We'll all put our hands up. Aye.
Yes.
So that is now been formalised, and thank you for reminding me of the process. I've never done this before. So back to Selwyn. So we have the same process. So we've had a bit of conversation. We can ask any questions of the staff if we want to get further thoughts on it. I'm a little bit ambivalent to this one. Driving around, it seems that the environment does warrant a lower speed. People are already doing a lower speed. The residents are a little bit ambivalent. Feedback is somewhat mixed. So,
before you get into debate, it might be a good idea to ask staff for the advice on the road first, for each of the roads, and then have the debate following that.
okay. What advice would staff give to us about Selwyn huts?
Yep. I would like to also consider Selwyn huts and Rakaya huts along as a consistent sort of road environment. Both are local townships.
Can you just pull the speaker a little bit closer?
Yeah, I would like to suggest considering Selwyn huts and Rakaya huts together before making a decision just for Selwyn huts, because both roads are got similar road environment. So we proposing Selwyn huts along with Rakaya huts to bring in consistency within the townships. So if we are saying no to Selwyn huts, I would like to suggest similar decision to be along Rakaya huts. So these roads were proposed based on community requests because there are no footpath. Often kids and pedestrians walk along the road sections, and for those sort of road environment, we recommend a 40 km per minute speed limit. The existing 20 along the speed humps are advisory speeds to drive drive safely around the speed humps. It's not a regulatory or enforceable speed limit, so be considered along that. Thanks.
Yeah, I think the thing that would differentiate this particular road from what we considered with Arthur's Pass is also the visual pollution aspect doesn't come into play. You're looking at placing one sign at each end, not plonking lots of signs all over the place. It's not in a national park. So on reflection, I'm looking here at the fours is 105 and opposed is 92. On that weight, what you're advising, I think I would actually accept the proposal. So I'm prepared to move that we accept the recommendation to reduce the speed at Selwyn huts from 50 to 40. If anyone's prepared to second that, or otherwise we'll move on.
I'm happy to second that. On the fact that, well, it's not really making any huge differences. I mean, it will be 40. It's good for it to say 40 rather than 50. And I know at Rakaya, if we want to keep them the same as Rakaya huts had a bit of a stronger preference for a reduced speed.
Yeah.
So I think we need to keep them both the same because they're very similar areas. So, yeah, I'll second
Okay.
that.
There's any further discussion on the Selwyn huts? Otherwise, we put it to the vote. All those in favour, stick your hand up. That's unanimous. That's carried. So we accept the recommendation to reduce Selwyn huts.
Can I just add in there? I did get feedback from some local residents about possibly reducing the speed of Days Road out to the huts at some point from 100 to 80. I don't know if that's the
That's
time to
something
bring that up.
for staff to take note of for
Yeah.
future consultation, I guess. And I'd also add, I think there may have been comments in the feedback, and certainly from driving there, the 100-kilometre limit on the shingle part of the road, the gravel part, that maybe seems as something we might want to have a wee look at in future as well.
Yeah, I think with Days Road, it was because of the community, the Springs Memorial, the Springston Memorial Hall is on there, and it is quite close to the road. Thank you.
So moving on to Rakaya huts, similar 50 to 40 recommended by staff. So if staff want to provide any context advice around that recommendation.
Yes, as mentioned earlier, don't have any footpaths along here. We got it's a camping destination as well, so we got camper vans, a lot of tourists around the summer season, and especially with kids walking along the road, it's been recommended to bring down the speed to 40 km/h to bring down the operating speed.
John.
Yes, can I just have clarification that in the key points made in the submissions, the second bullet point, it just seems contradictory. Residents who submitted are strongly against.
Yeah, that may be a typo. I did some analysis myself, and I categorised locals as people who lived there, owned property there, or owned a business there. And I'm not sure if there's any businesses in Rakaya huts. I can't recall. But the numbers I calculated were 19 supported and 8 opposed.
I think that might be a typo on my part, so apologies there. It should be 4.
Okay, well, with the clarity of the information, I'm in view of accepting the recommendation.
So you.
Yeah, we didn't. I'll just speak to it. We didn't have any spoken submissions, but there does seem to be, like I said before, a bit more emphasis from the residents to reduce it from 50 to 40. And I know it is there's a campground there, and it's by the beach. So during the summer, it is kind of there's lots of kids around and people and what have you. So I think it would be good to go from 50 to 40.
So moving and seconding. So John has moved, Denise has seconded for the record. Is there any further discussion on that? Noting that we've also strayed slightly, we should have focused on questions first, then discussion after the move. So we're happy to vote for the motion to accept the staff recommendation. Yes? All carried. So we accept the Rakaya Huts recommendation. Thank you. Clear Road is the next one on the list. Reducing from 100 to 80, staff are recommending it. Can you provide us your advice?
Yeah, I think that there is a group of roads in that section with Rolleston linking to Lincoln. So we would like to recommend to consider it as a whole section as shown in the map. So it got Clare Road, Rattle Track Road, Shands Road, Springston Rollaston Road, Waterholes Road, and a section of Whedon's Road be collectively considered for a decision. So these roads are proposed to bring down the speed limit from 100 to 80 due to the change in traffic patterns, being a lot busier than previously considered rural environment. Lot more traffic using these roads connecting both townships, and we got number of higher risk intersections along these corridors. So we are targeting roads, Shands Road, Springston Rollaston Road, and Whedon's Road in this section as the major connecting routes, and the supporting roads as Rattle Track, Waterholes, and Clare Road. So we recommend bringing the speed limit from 100 to 80 on these roads to be consistent with the remaining network around the area.
Sorry, the only other thing to add into that, and it links to all our crash statistics over recent years. The one pattern we are seeing emerging now is as we had subdevelopment growth around Selwyn, the connecting roads that connecting the subdevelopments to major urban centres is where we're starting to see higher numbers of low impact crashes, which is one of the other parts that's been driving this as well.
So, a question I have about Clare Road is that it's a short dead end road into a residential, a sort of rural residential subdivision, if you like. It's only 500 metres long, and the notion that it should be 80 k's is somewhat surprising. I would have thought 60 or 70 k's perhaps might be more reflective of the environment. You got any comment on that?
Yeah, I would like to provide a feedback on that. As we are not, as mentioned, we are not targeting Clare Road in here, which came along as it's a section of road which connects to Rattle Track Road, and Rattle Track Road is also not a target. We were targeting Springston Rollaston Road as the major beneficial to bring down from 100 to 80, but as these roads forms as part of a speed area, we were proposing to bring down the speed limit on 80 on Clare Road section to bring consistency around the area. We got many similar roads within our network similar to Clare Road, which is 80, because the connecting roads are 80.
So it's inheriting its speed from Clare Road.
Yes.
From Rattle
Track, yeah.
Track, yeah. Which is what I understand, and it seems mad, and people obviously are driving at a lower speed. So I guess the question is that Clare Road is on the consultation list as specifically as a road. So you ask for people's feedback on that road, but you're sort of asking us to approve a package of roads, or are we able to go through one by one? And because if the question was posed to me, should Clare Road be 80 kilometres an hour, I would say no. I wouldn't want to encourage people to do 80 kilometres into that road, and I know you're not planning to put a sign on that road that says 80, but if we're reviewing it, personally I would either not have it as part of the consultation so that it's just inheriting whatever other decision we make as is what currently stands, or if we are reviewing Clare Road, we should review Clare Road and determine the appropriate speed for Clare Road. Would that not be the right thing to do?
Like mentioned, we are not targeting Clare Road. If we go with that pattern, I think we should take a district-wide review, because there are many similar roads like Clare Road, which is having 80 kilometer speed limit in the network. So Clare Road could be 60, but it is currently 100. We should note that. And the reason why it's under consultation is that if if we're changing Springston-Rollaston Road to 80 and we only consult on Springston-Rollaston Road, the remaining will need to stay as 100. So the Clare Road will need a 100 km speed limit sign once we changing the speed limit on Rattle Track Road or Springston-Rollaston Road without changing Clare Road.
I'll let John question.
Yeah, I'm not all that familiar with the area, but my understanding is Clare Road currently has a 100 km speed limit, if not a sign. That the excellent data that's been provided in relation to the current speed shows that the current speed on Clare Road is 39 kilometres, so we can round that up to 40, which is half the proposed speed reduction. Any comment?
That's the average operating speed. Even with 100 km, people cannot drive up to 100 km speed limit there because of the road environment and the short section. So we are not expecting a major change in Clare Road traffic patterns or speed environment. That's not the target as well. We were proposing or targeting Springston-Rollaston Road and Clare Road is just to support and bring consistency within the network.
So if we were to go for, if the council were to decide to go for a district-wide speed review, is there a likely time frame on that?
Yeah, we could do that. That's a major job which will need to go through a speed management plan ideally, not through alternate method proposal. So that's a different section under the rule where we could do a district-wide speed management plan which will need more resource and more time-consuming job because we are reviewing a wider network.
And then the other one would just like briefly some evidence, because I presume you're going for network consistency in my word, which may not be the traffic engineering term. So is Clare Road included to make it consistent with the wider network? So my question is, what sort of evidence is there to show that on a road where there's no crashes, the current speed is 39 kilometres, approximately half the proposed reduction, that the network review is warranted?
I think I mentioned that earlier. We are not targeting Clare Road or reviewing Clare Road in this situation. We are reviewing speed limit on Springston-Rollaston Road, and the Rattle Track Road and Clare Road is supporting the proposed 80 km on Springston-Rollaston Road, unless these will remain as 100 km per hour.
I guess it's a little bit like the Arthur's Pass roads inherit the main highway road and we decided not to do anything with them. Maybe we should shift our attention off Clare Road to Rattle Track Road, which is the road that it will inherit its speed limit from, and then if the councillors are happy, I'll move to questions or advice about Rattle Track. If there's anything additional you want to talk about Rattle Track before we ask questions, or is that covered before what you said before? Okay, so we'll go to Denise. But focus on Rattle Track rather than Clare. Clare's going to be inheriting whatever we decide about other roads.
Yeah. But I was going to say, I think I'm happy with what's been explained, is that it's part of that network, which if Rattle Track is 80, Clare Road should be 80. For us to make it any lower, we would have to do the district-wide speed management plan, which I think that's another whole topic, which I would like to have noted somewhere, that we can do that at some point when we have the resources. But that's more about our urban roads and reducing speeds there. So I can see that with Rattle Track Road, it's part of it's sealed and part of it is unsealed. We did have a submitter speak to us that they felt the unsealed part should be a slower speed. So 80 on the sealed part and perhaps less on the unsealed part, but I don't know if that's something that can be considered in this
That's a good question,
situation.
Denise. Remember, we're doing questions, so that's a question.
That's a question, sorry. Yes, that's a question.
So the question was about considering the gravel part separately. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I think it's similar to Clare Road. Like mentioned that we are not targeting Rattle Track Road here because it's unsealed. We are expecting a lower operating speed and drivers to drive to the conditions. We got many unsealed roads in the network, which is 100 kilometers per hour. So we are not proposing 80 because it's an unsealed road. We are proposing 80 on Rattle Track Road just because it's a connecting road to Springston Rolleston Road.
Okay, so I get that as well. So that seems like when I look at the map that I've done for myself and I see the grid of the interconnecting roads and they're sort of between Rolleston and Lincoln, I can see that they do all cross over each other, and I can see how it makes sense to have them all at 80. So I do get that. My other question, which did come back to Clare Road though, was this isn't, I don't know if this is a question, but anyway, 112 people supported lowering the speed limit on it, and 192 people were against lowering the speed limit of a dead-end road. And that just worries me about the responses that we got to the questions, because how can 192 people be against reducing the speed limit on a dead-end road that you can't even get up to 40 on? That's a rhetorical question. I don't expect an answer. Thank you. So yeah, I'm happy with the 80, personally happy with 80 for Rattle Track and all of that interlocking section of roads, because I do know some of them are quite high crash. I know it's the intersections, and I know that we do need to register somewhere, Sophie, that we need to upgrade the intersections for safety. But this is an interim measure, and for me, that will make it safer for everyone.
Yeah, the question I have is that when we look at Clare Road and Rattle Track Road, one's got a peri-urban classification and the other's a rural road, but I notice they're both able to, according to the national classification and consistency, have speed limits of 80, but they can also go lower than that. And whilst the feedback isn't a determinative factor, when that's combined with so strongly weighted against a reduction, the crashes, and whilst there's one non-injury on Rattle Track and no crash is acceptable, don't get me wrong, unlike the following 3 roads where the crash history is higher, I'm just would like some further information that, from my limited understanding, safety on the road is an important issue, and the research seems to show that the safest speed is the speed that most of the motorists use while they're on the road. So in my limited understanding of the situation, if there's a speed limit that most of the people on the road consider too low, they don't obey it, and that causes a safety risk in itself. So can I just have a bit of help from the staff on where's the balance? If you've got a lot of the local users saying, no, we don't want it lower, there's relatively little crashes, minimal in this case, and then if you lower the speed, there's the risk, and I know it's not acceptable, but it's the reality from some of the literature, that if people don't feel comfortable with the speed, there is, and I may have it technically wrong, so please correct me, in my layperson's language, an optimal speed, which most people tend to drive at according to the conditions most of the time. And if that's too low, it encourages people to go faster and encourages sort of inappropriate overtaking, if that is helpful, is my question. the person factor, I suppose, I'm looking at, rather than the sort of technical national qualifications and national standards. What about the personal driver behaviour research?
I think the road speed limits are set according to the road environment. So the drivers should be driving to the conditions and also obeying the speed limit. Speed limit is not a target, it's a maximum speed somebody can drive on. So that's why unsealed roads got a 100-kilometer speed limit, but most of them or majority of them have very low operating speed of maybe around 30s or 40s, which is what is the safest speed to be driving on. So,
and I suppose on that, in Rattletrack, the current mean operating speed is 58. So most of the drivers have sort of set their own speed limit. And I'm just trying to say, well, when there's very few reported accidents, there's quite strong feeling from those who responded to the survey not to decrease it. And the current mean speed is well within the proposed reduction. What's the justification?
I think one of the key things on here is because we're joining two urban areas together, and we heard from some of the people that put their proposals forward, as they said they didn't want to see lots of different speeds because they may forget that some of these areas had or hadn't been reduced and didn't want to get prosecuted for it, which probably leans more towards why we're trying to standardise the speeds across those areas so it becomes uniform for all the drivers.
I guess I can understand that argument, but I also get a sense driving around some of our roads that the limits, as a driver, like John says, people drive to the conditions, and if the conditions are a straight road with large berms, not too many houses coming off, no accidents or very few accidents occurring over the last 5 years, people already driving below the limit. I'm sort of a similar mind to John, is that what's the problem that we're trying to fix? And I can understand you saying, well, people want consistency and they don't want to get a speeding ticket because they forgot what the speed limit is. Well, they won't get a speeding ticket if you leave it at 100 because that's what they're used to doing. But that aside, people should read signs, and there's really no excuse for not obeying the speed limit. That won't wash with a police officer if they pull you over. So clearly we don't want roads where we're chopping and changing along the length of a road, because that's inconsistent. But I'm not sure that I buy into. I've got to find a question here, don't I, John?
Well, one of the other things, if it helps at all, is remember I said that staff have provided local context into some of these as well. So some of the local context we're seeing, and you're going to see it more in the other roads that come down, are these roads connect to some of the main roads. Those main roads in those immediate areas, because they're now, with the urban expansion we're seeing, any significant increase in traffic volumes, those traffic volumes, along with driver behaviours, frustration and pressures at peak times, is what's seeing a significant increase in the higher numbers of crashes. But because in these areas they don't get up to the similar kinds of speeds as they do in the rural networks that are longer and straighter, and they're operating in here, this is where we're trying to target some of those speed reductions for future, to try and reduce the numbers of those crashes that are going to happen in the future. So it's just an additional context that staff have put forward when measuring the weightings.
How far into the future?
Imminently.
Yeah, in next few years. I would like to also point out that about the network consistency here. If you look at Springs Road between Lincoln and Prebleton, that's the similar road environment to Shands Road from Springston to Prebleton or connecting, where we proposing to bring down from 100 to 80. Springs Road have a average operating speed which is more than what is Shands, but Shands Road is 100 km speed limit and Springs is 80. So we got this inconsistency in network, which we're trying to fix as well.
Does it help if you're working, just to bring you back to the premise that this is a group of roads and
If you
you
look
should
at
be
the map,
treating them as a
yeah.
group? So if you agree with the reduction to 80 for the majority of those roads, then it would be reasonable to suggest that the better outcome is a reduction for all of these roads.
I was going to say, it's not a question, but yeah, because Clare Road and Rattletrack Road only has 217 vehicle movements a day, and the average speed is already 50 or 58, I think John said. I've got 50. And the same with Clare Road, as you actually can't go faster on it. So those two are kind of theoretical, hypothetical changes to keep them consistent with the other roads. And the same with Rattletrack Road, because the average speed on there is only 50 at the moment, and part of it's unmade, so you're not going to drive at 100 on it unless you want to do something stupid. So then it comes down to the other roads that are on that map that's up on the screen, and looking at those, they have things like the Springston-Rolleston Road is 4,321 vehicle movements per day, 4 serious crashes, 11 minor crashes, 6 non-injury crashes. So there could be, if you change the speed limit from 100 to 80, there'll be a 28% reduction in crashes. 27 of the residents that live on that road are for that change. 18 are against. The current mean speed on that road is 83, so if we change it to 80, the mean speed will go down to 75. So for me, that road is a really important road in that network to change to 80. And I can see how the others, I know there's no subdivisions shown on there at the moment, but there will be. So for me, it's that whole network look, and the only one I would say as an exception for me on that is the Shands Road one, because I know a lot of the business drivers see that as a main thoroughfare, the same as they see Leaston Road. So that would be slightly different, although I do know it has a high crash rate as well. So I'm not sure how we go about that one. But anyway, that's just some more thoughts that I have.
Okay, then, and picking up on that, just to make sure that I've got the right roads, can you please identify Clear Road and Rattletrack Road on the diagram so that I'm absolutely sure of what I'm looking at? Is that the one to the left?
The little short one, that's clear.
Yeah.
The one running almost vertically, that's Rattletrack, and it extends through.
Yeah, right, okay. Because, again, I'm trying to come to grips with the fact that when we look at the Rolleston to Lincoln roads as a network consistency, we've got Clear Road and Rattletrack Road, which are respectively peri-urban and rural. All the other roads are rural connectors, so I can see the consistency in the network. And just as an indication, whilst I haven't reached a decision yet, I'm of a mind at this point in time, subject to hearing further information, of course, saying that Clear Road and Rattletrack maybe no, but the rest I can see that they've got much stronger cases for the network consistency and the speed reduction.
Yeah, the risk of that would be Rattletrack Road and Clare Road. If we decide not to, then that will stay as 100 kilometers per hour speed limit, with the remaining going down to 80, which is not appropriate.
Can you maybe speak a little bit more around your concerns if those two roads were kept at 100 rather than dropping to 80?
Yeah, the Rattletrack Road may be used as a cut-through route if it stays on 100 and remaining go down to 80. And we will need to be signposting Clare Road as a 100 coming down from Springston Rolleston Road. We will need to signpost Rattletrack Road as a 100 with lower speed limit on Springston Rolleston Road, which is not ideal for the road classification. Also, if we are looking for a lower speed limit on Clare Road and Rattletrack Road in future, we could always consider that in the next review. If we are going for a network-wide speed management plan, we could consider appropriate lower speed for Clare Road and Rattletrack Road in case if we need to do that, because there are many similar roads in the network like that.
Also part of that future review, if you wanted to do one, because we're conscious of the subdevelopment growth between all those areas, the likelihood of the roads changing their classification levels would become quite high. So they would change from rural roads probably down to peri-urban and so on. But that's a lot bigger thing, and it would end up having to look across the entirety of the network.
No, I wasn't suggesting that we change the classification of the roads, but just looking at it, it just seems, and I can see the logic in having Clear and Rattletrack similar, but I'm just trying to get my head around how Rattletrack Road would become a shortcut, because it seems that the road immediately below it would be a more logical one. And I'm just wondering how real is the fact that, what's the evidence to suggest that it would become a short track? And are there other measures that could be used to reduce that?
If we look for traffic coming from Rolleston to Springston or Leaston, they are taking Springston Rolleston Road, then turn to Waterholes Road. Currently, they could use Rattletrack Road, or the other way around from Leaston to Rolleston, they could use Rattletrack Road as a cut through instead of using Waterholes.
I think we should talk about Shands Road, because Denise alluded to that before. That's one of the most strongly opposed roads, and it is a fairly utilised connector into Christchurch, I guess. The people from Leaston also spoke about Shands Road because they come down from Leaston, obviously, and then connect onto it. And we did talk about this a little outside of the meeting, in that clearly the intersections along that road are hotspots for crashes, and one that I'm aware of is Whedon Shands Road. There was a crash there this morning as we drove into council, so it sort of highlighted the risk. There are a number of crashes at that intersection. And I can't remember if it was in the documentation we read or if it was a comment that somebody made, that is there potential for that intersection through from Ellesmere. Well, I'll point on the diagram so my councillors can see, but I'll try and verbally explain it for anyone watching online. So we're looking at, that's the intersection I'm talking about there, and just above the intersection, somewhere just above, just north of the intersection of Wheaton's and so about there, down through to Ellesmere Junction Road rather. There was a proposal by somebody, whether it was a commenter or somebody else said it, could we look at making that shorter section 80 kilometres, which achieves the desired safety improvement for that intersection, but maintain the rest of that corridor through at 100? Is that a feasible option?
I would not suggest that as a preferred option because of similar road environment all the way through Shands Road. There are no difference from that section we splitting unless there is a roundabout or something.
Well, that's ultimately where we'd go. That's a hot topic where, as a council, we've talked about crashes at intersections, and we need to do more work on roundabouts at some of these dangerous ones. So that would be a more medium-term view, I guess, not short-term, because short is quite short, but certainly we'd be having to think about that. But
Yeah, can I just say that in the next 2 or 3 weeks we are bringing a paper on intersection safety, and that'll be a good time to have a more in-depth conversation around roundabouts, intersection safety, and some of the options that are open to us, short and medium, long term.
So I guess the question for you then is, you say it's not a recommended option, but if you had to choose from it remaining at 100 or part of it remaining at 100 and that dangerous hotspot being reduced to 80, what would you choose?
I would suggest the whole section to be 80.
That's not an
as
option.
proposed.
I didn't give you that choice.
Just for clarity, team, do we do staged speed reduction on any of our roads? Is there a standing example of that where we do go from 100 to an 80 in areas where we have some concern?
I think we may need further assessment to that because there are some limitations that we need to meet minimum length requirement for a section of 80 for a major road because it's not part of an intersection. We are proposing the major through route as an 80, so we need to meet certain conditions to be able to do that.
If it helps, Mr. Chair, at this stage I'd have a preference to segment the roads and, as I said earlier, clear and rattle track. I'm of a mind to say leave it as it is and then we could move on to the rest.
Okay, I'll second that then. I'm allowed to second, aren't I? Am I allowed to second something so we can keep moving? Yep. Okay. So is there any discussion about the two roads that John has focused us on at the moment, which is Clear and Rattle Track?
I won't be supporting that, but it's democracy. Three of us, 2 against 1.
Well, I supported it for the purposes of conversation. I would also support it in terms of, I think it's useful for us to consider a smaller breakdown of roads, like John's saying. I do wonder though that the issue of Shands Road is the one that sticks on my mind, because that sort of affects, well, I don't know.
I would put out there that if we come along, well, council staff come along and put 100 km/h signs on Clare Road and Rattletrack Road, quite a few residents are going to think that we've lost the plot.
They're not going to put 100k signs there because they already exist. Is that correct? There must be 100k road signs at the end of each of those 2 roads already.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a matter of them changing the signs. So it's basically, do we stick with the status quo or do we shift that to 80? And the motion is currently that we stick with the status quo, correct?
Okay. And I'm against. That can be recorded.
Right. Okay. You in favour? So please note that Denise was against that. What do we got? So that's no, that's no. So that brings us to Shan's, which is the critical one. There's very strong opposition to that because it's that connector, that rural, was it that what they call a rural connector? We talked about the crashes, but predominantly they're at the intersections, and I'd hazard a guess that a lot of them are at that particular one that we're talking about. Technical question for Sophie. Is it possible for me to move a motion that we split?
As a chair, you can decide how you split the votes.
No, not the split the vote, split the road.
You would need to get more advice on that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Can we park that one then?
Yep.
So let's park Shan's Road so that we can get advice about whether it's feasible to have the top end split and reduce to 80 and then the remainder stick at 100.
Just before
Mr.
you
Chair.
move on from that, Chair,
Sorry.
any comment on that, staff? From a safety perspective, regulation perspective?
Yeah, regulation, I already mentioned we need to access about the length of the road. We're proposing, does it meet the minimum criteria for 80? Check against the setting of speed limit rule 2024 and their requirements. But I would also like to point out that the remaining intersections on that section of Shands, like Shands Boundary Road, is classified as a high collective and high personal risk intersection, and Shands Tancred Road is being classified under a medium collective risk and high personal risk intersection. So the remaining intersections are also considered similar nature and risky one.
So that Shan's Spencer and Rolleston one in there happens to be probably our highest non-rural intersection where we're seeing the highest number of deaths and serious injuries at the moment. That's why it's next on the list for for major works. Yeah. All the others, luckily, there were about another 5 that were on there. They've all had major works done to them over the past number of years. That just happens to be the last one.
John.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, my view at the moment is that we've got some important decisions to make, and if there's going to be a paper coming to council on intersections and wider issues, that it may be possible, just in my view, to maybe adjourn, not now, and hold these, because I'm picking up from the officers that they can't give us an immediate answer to the chair's question, and it would be helpful from my point of view to have that information and time to consider that, and then come back at an adjourned time to further the deliberations.
We can do that.
Just to be clear, so I've understood the feedback staff are giving us in regard to the questions that you've posed. You've identified that there are high-risk intersections on this stretch of road, and you've also identified that this isn't a situation where you would have 2 different speed limits on that road, both 100 and 80k. Is that correct?
So when it comes to the splitting of the speeds, we have to do some work in that space because there's some regulatory requirements that we need to work within. But on that section of road on Shands, it's not just the one intersection. Yes, we have one intersection that's extremely high numbers of deaths and serious injuries, but the other intersections that join onto it as well are very high on our risk rating matrix as well.
Yeah. The dilemma that I'm weighing up, and I assume my fellow councillors to a degree are as well, is that there's the safety information, there's the recommended speeds, and then there's the current speeds as well. And if the current speeds, like if we look at Shands going from 100 to 80, the current mean speed is already 73. And I know you're going to tell me that by lowering it again, we'll reduce the speed again, and the lower the speed, the less severity of the crash, which is completely valid, but to a degree that accepts that crashes will happen. And I don't know that we should accept that crashes should happen at intersections, and that's why there's already a sense that we want to look at improving the safety of the intersections. So then I come back around in a circle again. People are already going lower than the proposed speed limit. So, I don't know. It's not what the problem we're trying to fix is, because there is a problem, clearly. But I'm torn between what lowering it further is going to achieve and how much disruption or dissatisfaction, perhaps is the word, that community is going to feel for potentially not a lot of short-term gain if we are ultimately looking at putting in roundabouts or whatever other safety measures that we might put. We haven't, so John's made the suggestion that we adjourn, and is that adjourn the topic, these sections of roads, and move to the next?
Yeah, just the Shands Road, but if I may, Mr. Chair.
Push your button. Oh, wait. Denise, can you flip your button off and on?
Yeah. So I was just thinking, just on the Shands Road, I'm happy to continue with the rest, and hopefully there won't be others that we need to come back on. But picking up on your point, Mr. Chair, that we've already got a current mean speed of 73 kilometres an hour and a unacceptable accident rate. So let's look at what we can control. The estimated mean operating speed post the proposed speed limit change goes from 63 kilometres to 65 kilometres. So can I have some traffic safety information, please, on, I know any reduction in speed, as we've heard, is going to make it safer. What are the benefits of what are the reductions in the impact of vehicle incidents if you lower the speed from 73 to 65?
So the estimated crash reduction is provided in the cost-benefit disclosure statement, but also we need to note that when we reduce 20 kilometer speed limit from 100 to 80, we are expecting more than 50% of the kinetic energy released in a crash will be reduced. So that's a significant reduction in severity of any crashes that are occurring at that speed.
So you're saying we're getting a nominal reduction of 20 kilometres an hour from 100 to 80. My question was, we're getting an effective projected reduction of 8 kilometres an hour. So the information you've given me on the reduction of 20 kilometres an hour, what does that mean for a reduction of 8 kilometres per hour?
That needs to be assessed further, but the 8 kilometer per hour reduction is on the average vehicle speeds. It's not for a single vehicle. So we are expecting if one vehicle is driving on 100 kilometer per hour, it should go to 80 because that's the maximum speed limit.
I think I'm reconfirmed in the fact of an adjournment, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so we'll park this section of roads and move to the next. Oh, where are we? It might be easier, given that we've been asked to consider them as a group, to get a bit more advice about what's going to happen with the intersections and whether we can chop up one road.
So, Mr. Chair, would you like a motion?
Yeah.
I'll move that the Group D, Rolleston to Lincoln Roads, from Shands Road, a point generally 100 metres south, blah, 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 to Whedon's Road from Boundary Road, etc., be adjourned.
You comfortable with adjourning, Denise? That section of roads? Or I can second it.
Can I suggest, just in terms of wording of that proposal, that it's proposed that further information is requested from staff rather than adjournment?
I'm happy
to
with that amendment.
amend words. Yep. Okay. Well, I'll second that. We're going to seek more information on that grouping of roads as John has described. All those in favour? Aye. That's carried. And Denise, would you like that noted? Done that one. Done that one. Done that one. Right. Segment E. Rolleston, Sprinkston, Doyleston. Yeah. So staff, you would like to provide us some advice about that?
Yes, so that's another group from Springston to Doyleston, Coles Road and sections of Leaston Road to be considered together. Gold's Road currently posted at 100 kilometer speed limit, but got a difficult alignment, lot of horizontal bends with curve advisory warning signs and speeds. So the current 100 kilometer speed limit is not appropriate for that section of road, considering the road environment, and the mean operating speed is already below 80.
Denise?
Yeah, we drove this road when we went out for a visit, and when we all drove the road, we did agree that it was quite narrow, some unmade edges and some quite tight bends. It really is a rural road still. On the stats, it's not, yeah, there's not too much differentiation there. There's been one serious crash, 3 minor and 1 non-injury. The speed reduction would create a 28% reduction in injuries. Vehicle movements per day is 2,432, which I remember when it was like a little back road that nobody used, but now it's kind of a major commuting route for people from Leaston and elsewhere to go to Rolleston. So I do agree that it should go down to 80. I didn't have any questions there, sorry. So that's my thoughts.
John?
Yeah, a point of clarification. In relation to Leaston Road, the two locations, are they continuous?
No, we got Irwell Village in between.
Sorry, there's...
We got Irwell Village.
Right. So they're either side of a 50-kilometre village zone. Oh, right. Thank you.
That's 60, that section.
Yep. Okay.
In the spreadsheet that we've got on Leeston Road 2, it says recommended, and underneath it says staff recommend 80 kilometres from Ellesmere Junction through to Memories Corner. So the question is, so that's that segment from the corner upwards, John. So the question is that the only section of that corridor that you're recommending to reduce to 80 and the rest leave alone, or what are you suggesting?
Hi. We are recommending the whole section, but if from the people that came in to share their feedback at the hearings, they suggested that we should maybe consider taking it from 80 from just after the Springston Village there, just around the corner, as there's been a few accidents at that corner. So there's just something for councillors to consider.
Cool, thank you. Denise?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't realise we were doing Leeston Road as well.
Oh, it's the whole
Oh, the whole thing. Okay. Because I think with Leeston Road's a bit different again because of the number of people that are against reducing the speed on it, plus the petition that was presented by one of the submitters with, it was over 1,000 signatures, wasn't it? I can't remember the exact number. And I know that it's seen as a main route, and this is where I was going with the Shands Road as well, as that for people that living out in Leeston and for commercial drivers, it's seen as a main arterial route through Leeston, Shands and into the city. There was a lot of talk about if it was reduced that drivers would use other roads to try and get around it, and that it would cause people to drive more dangerously because people were driving at 80. And so this road and Shands Road were the two exceptions that I made in my own mind, with the feedback from the community as well, that it should stay at 100. Reluctantly, I say that. But the stretch up to Memories Corner should be slowed down as recommended by the staff and the submitters. There has been some crashes on that road, and again, I do think it comes down to the intersections which need to be looked at. So I think that would be quite important. It's got 6,572 vehicle movements per day on the northeast part and 4,838 on the south part. So it is a highly used road, and perhaps needs to be considered for some sort of upgrade in that it is being used so heavily. And that's my thoughts on that one.
John?
Yes, I noticed they're both rural connectors, and one of the submitters came in and spoke quite persuasively about the opposition, and I know the council undertook consultation, but the submitter, and I have no reason to doubt the authenticity or the integrity of the submitter's information, got responses from 1,416, and they supported the retention of the current limit, and being honest and open, he declared that there were 55 responses supporting the reduction. And whilst the gap isn't quite so predominant in the council's consultation, there's definitely a clear opposition to the speed. And I think they are persuasive factors. And when you take it into account that... Sorry, I need to get my right bit of paper. That Leeston Road is probably one of those ones that stands out because the 100 kilometres gives a speed of 87 as the current, and that does go down to 79 if it's reduced to 80. And then for Leaston Road Part 2, the current is 94, but even if it goes down to 80, and they mustn't be terribly law-abiding out that part of town because it looks as though they'll probably be doing 84. So again, I'm in this quagmire of saying, well, looking at the evidence before me, which is all I can really go on, just saying at this stage, I hope we can hear something pretty persuasive to change my mind.
Well, I think following from listening to the submitters is why we've come up with this additional option of from the intersection there through Memories Corner to Springston being another option, which is our highest risk rating for us. So it enables an additional option for you.
So again, and I'm sorry I'm not very clear, can you just highlight the recommendation? Because I, maybe erroneously or maybe not, thought that the recommendation to split the speed limit was because of the village. So there's the village which naturally splits it. So what I'm now hearing, and I just need to confirm that, I'll get you, yeah.
The top area where the wet green is, that's Springston Township. And then you come out and just down here is a place called Memories Corner.
Yep, I remember that.
The proposal they're suggesting is that we slow it down just approaching Memories Corner and continuing through to Springston. And part of the reason for that is you'll see there's a bit more built up here.
Yep.
And around that corner there's also a few businesses on the side and a few more houses. So it certainly does become a bit more built up, if you like, for one of the...
No, I'm fully on board with that, and I remember from the drive-by. But again, I now, maybe it's not one of my better days, and sort of left confused because I think I'm hearing, well, now we can split the speed limit, whereas in the past...
I think that's because staff had pre-warning that that was an option to look into, and they've checked the details that they'll need to do for the other one. Would that be fair?
Yeah, so primarily for us, primarily for us, safety-wise, was a whole network approach on that section of road. But then following on from what we heard from submitters, we looked at other options to try and give you additional options around there to enable you to come up with, a decision that worked for you.
Denise?
So I would say thank you for that option. And for me, that is the perfect answer, is that the road can stay at 100, but we reduce the speed on the bit to Memories Corner because that's the most dangerous stretch. And that goes along with what the submitters have quite been, like it was the strongest one in keeping the speed limit. And again, like I say, I'm tend to be more for slowing speed limits, but I can understand that if we slow the speed limit on that road, it will cause people to drive possibly more dangerously, and then they will take the other roads, which I can't remember the names of them, but they'll be going out around Coes Ford and what have you, rather than using the main road. So that's just going to cause another knock-on effect of a whole lot of problems.
So would you care to move? Or?
Yeah, no, and I think that's the highly persuasive piece of information that's changed my motion, so I'm quite happy to move if someone would like to word it.
Clarity, we're moving that the Memories Corner option be chosen?
Just a question for the staff down there. Do you need any specificity in the resolution as to the location, the exact location around Memories Corner that it should go to?
I think if you look at the bottom of the screen on there with the intersection, our hope would be we'd do it just before that intersection. So anybody coming from Leaston, as they hit that intersection, hits 80. So that intersection, the bend, and the bottom of the township is encapsulated.
Could the motion be something to the effect that at an appropriate distance back from the intersection of, is it Days and Collins or something like that? Collins, Powell's and Leaston Road, whatever the appropriate distance is, the signage is placed at that point.
Do you want to suggest an approximate distance? So would it be approximately 100 metres, 200
Well,
metres?
between 60 to 80 metres is what we're looking for.
So I'd suggest approves a speed reduction for Leaston Road from 100 kilometres to 80 kilometres, approximately 60 to 80 kilometres southwest.
Meters.
Woo! Look like a K, that's my writing.
Nice work, Sophie.
60 to 80 kilometres southwest of the intersection between Leaston Road and Collins and the other one road.
Through to Springston Township. Yeah, well, the 50k sign there. Yeah. Okay, so we're all in favour. We all vote for that. Carried. Hurrah. So now we've got from this section we have Gould's Road still to address. If there's any more questions, if no questions, then we can have a move and then conversation.
Gone from page 3 to page 4, which takes me from.
I think you're still on page 3, John.
So is this number 2?
First one in section E, Gould's Road, because we've
Oh, sorry, Gould's
we've
Road.
done the Leaston bit, and we did have a bit of a discussion about Gould's, but if there's any further discussion or questions rather, otherwise we can make a motion about Gould's Road and then have any conversation and then we can vote on it.
Sorry, Denise, you go. You move it.
Under you do.
To 80.
Say it again.
I move that we reduce it to 80.
John will second that. Now we can have some conversation around that.
Yeah, hang on.
We're playing tag.
Again, I would see that the crashes and given the stretch of the road, that although it's not in favour, that the crash in this particular case on a case-by-case basis does warrant getting primacy of consideration, and that's why I would support the reduction.
Yeah, similarly, driving that road, it is a little bit narrow and windy compared to a lot of the other roads that we're looking at, so I'd also tend to favour this reduction. So I think on that basis we could probably move to the vote. All those in favour? All right, carried. So now we move to Group F, Prebbleton, Collins Road, Timber Yard Road, and the other roads in that grouping. I'll invite staff to provide some advice about those.
Yeah, so this section we got Hamptons Road, Longstaff, Trices, and I think Collins Road, which is down Lincoln. But yeah, we look at Prebbleton Township, we got Hamptons, Trices, and Longstaff. So we targeting Hamptons Road and Trices Road. Longstaff Road is supporting as it forms the intersection with Trices Road section. Hamptons Road, we having a new subdivision development proposed between Trices and the bottom section of Hamptons Road. So we already reduced speed limit on Hamptons Road north of Springs Road from 80 to 60 as part of the Hamptons Downs development. So we bringing in consistency around that Hamptons Road section, bringing down the speed limit from 80 to 60 on the proposed section. And Trices Road forms connecting Prebbleton Township to the Christchurch City Council boundary. The section of Trices Road on the CCC boundary is posted as 60 kilometer speed limit, but once it moves into the Selwyn Council network, it's 80. But similar road environment, so we bringing in consistency between the inter-region or inter-district with similar road environment.
Denise.
Oh, it's not a question.
Yeah. I suppose some clarification just on the fact that Hamptons Road, the residents are fairly evenly divided, and there were probably 2 to 3, only 15, but there was an awful lot of other than residents which were quite strongly opposed, and it's classified as a rural road, whereas the other 3 roads on page 4 are classified as rural connectors, and my current view is that, again, there's probably 13, 14 residents that are fairly evenly divided, but because they're rural connectors, unsurprisingly, in my mind, at this point in time, there's quite major opposition. Is there any clarification you can provide?
Yeah, I think a lot of the submitters may be opposing to all these roads rather than looking into particular sections. But if we look at that section of Hamptons Road with the development proposed and the Kakaha Park and the connecting road there, that's Birches Road, I think, which is already on 60. So I think the proposal suits the road environment and the network around it.
So you just mentioned some development along that road. Can you sort of indicate on the map for us whereabouts that is?
That's the green shaded area.
The big green.
Okay.
It's all of it.
And
It's
do you
the
know
whole of
when that is likely to occur?
I think it's happening. Some part of it is already developed.
So it's already being developed?
Yes, and some already consent.
It's happening now.
The other part that goes in with this as well is, as it was identified with the park is a place where a lot of people are heading to. So now there's not just the additional growth, but there's additional growth happening on Hamptons between Trents, Trices, all those areas that are currently being built. So those subdivisions are being built right now, which within the next 6 to 8 months will start to build properties on them, which is going to increase the numbers of people heading to those park areas. So where Birches is already at 60, and that's the primary road, we're trying to get that standardised in there.
Oh, yeah, you zoomed out now. I can visualise where we are. So the section to the left of Birches Road, I presume your reasoning for doing both sides of that road is consistency.
Yeah, because one's already a park in the area, and the other area is being built as it currently stands.
Denise.
Yeah, not a question. I just want to support the staff on my. I've done my own. Yeah, the ones that are on the screen now. I can see that they are all going to. They are either are now or going to very shortly be part of Prebbleton Township, and a bit like the other grid between Rolleston and Lincoln. Unfortunately, I can see the bigger picture is that they are going to be the township. There's going to be more traffic. We've already got traffic issues, and I can understand why we would want to reduce them from 80 to 60. All of those roads, Longstaffs and Trices, have got quite high crash statistics. Again, needs intersections looking at. But with the traffic increase, you've got 2,354 on Trices, 2,975 on Longstaffs. Hemptons is less, but it's a smaller road, but it will increase. There's no overwhelming submissions against it. There are obviously some people who are against any changes in speed, but I would support them being reduced down to 60.
So if we go into the green area, the dark and the light green, Trices Road, Birches Road, Springs Road, are they all 60 kilometres?
That section is 50, that light green.
Okay.
Looking at that, if you think of the light green as it currently stands, the dark green are the areas that are currently being developed right now. A number have already been developed and starting to get houses built on them.
And they're all 50 kilometres?
In the light green, yes.
So if you look at the map, you can see the Hamptons bit's quite adjacent to either existing or current development, but the likes of Trices and Longstaff, at least currently, looks a bit more out in the rural areas. Why are we moving on that area now?
It's because those areas tend to be a way that a lot of people are shooting out, heading towards town, heading out that way and up State Highway 75.
And why 60?
Yeah, that road is also not a straight road, and it got a lot of horizontal bends, and if that continuous road goes to Christchurch city boundary, which is within a 60 kilometer speed limit already, so to bring consistency between the network managed by two councils, we proposing 60 to match with Christchurch city, which is similar road environment.
I think there's a subdivision that's going in on the edge of Christchurch there as well, isn't there? Is there a subdivision at Horswell coming out that way?
Yeah, that's within their boundary. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's all going to join together.
So we just discussed Gould's Road, which is a rural road, which is a wee bit windy, and it was 80. And I was okay to go to 80. I'm looking at that one. Doesn't look a lot different. If there was subdivisions to start being built, then that would change things, if and when. So I'm not quite convinced that that's different than Gould's.
Yeah, this is the road environment more looks like a peri-urban road where it's just around the township boundaries within.
Do we have anyone want to move anything? On which way and on where are we going to do this too? We're going to go, well, we haven't talked about Collins Road yet. Perhaps we should talk about Collins Road, then we've talked about all the roads in that block, I think. Oh no, there's
Roads
one,
in a totally
and there's
different
Timber Yard
place,
over the
though.
road as well.
I don't know why Collins Road is in that section.
Just to confirm, are we looking at these roads as a grouping?
Collins Road is nowhere near those roads.
Doesn't need to be, it's just similar.
Okay, can I suggest that just for clarity and ease that you step through the roads one by one, make sure we've got the staff recommendation and then move to questions and discussion.
Yeah. So, okay, so that means the three that we've already talked about, will we go through those three one at a time and make a decision about those three, and then we'll move on to the next lot. Denise?
Oh, I was just going to move that we accept the recommendation for Trice's Road, Longstaff's Road and Hampton's Road, which are the three on the screen, to reduce from 80 to 60.
Does anyone want to second that? Okay, for those listening, John decided to second it pro forma because he didn't have his microphone on. So now we can have some discussion around those three roads.
Golds Road, I think the fact that there's subdivision, are you able to give a little indication of the number of lots?
Hamptons,
No.
you mean?
Hampton's Road.
Oh,
Right, so-
yeah, honestly, I don't have the numbers, but between Hamptons, Trices, Trents, it's all going to be just houses.
Right, okay.
Yeah, it's significant.
So there is along the one that's it's Trice's Road. That's the one that's troubling me, if you like. So there is subdivisions in future planned to stretch along there.
Not that we are aware of, but we got a lot of cyclists use that section of road as well.
Okay.
So the key things on here is yes, it's similar to some of the previous roads you heard about. It's very narrow, it's very windy, but because it connects to State Highway 75, you get a lot more cyclists that do a big, significant loop. And I think you heard from one of the ladies who came in and did the presentation to us on the day. She cycles through there all the time. Now with the expansion of the Pebbleton area, we're seeing a significant more traffic movements heading out that way to get to State Highway 75. And because it joins the Christchurch city boundary, that's all getting developed right now, and that's at 60, it would mean we've got only a very short section of road that goes from 60 to 80 back down to 50. So where it goes into the light green, the built up area.
The light green at the...
Yeah, so the light green is already developed and it's at 50. The dark green are the areas that are being developed.
Yep. But what about out this way here to the right?
That's all CCC boundary, and it's been built up to the boundary.
Where is the boundary?
You see the dotted line that follows
yeah.
it.
Okay.
So this is, as we said earlier on, where we're trying to get standardisation across boundaries as well as not just within Selwyn.
So what's the speed limit on the road just to the top of the boundary? I can't quite read it. In Christchurch.
Yeah, that Longstaff Road continues into the Christchurch city boundary and turns to 60 around that bend.
And the area between the boundary, there doesn't seem to be terribly many houses. And my recollection is that it's more rural than it is urban along that stretches of Trices Road.
Yeah, that's why we're bringing in some consistency, because the road environment doesn't changes between CCC and Selwyn, but it got different speed limit. So we're matching the CCC speed limit, like similar to John's Road before Templeton, which got a 60 speed limit across the boundary, but it's a sort of a rural environment.
So if we go down a little bit, so move it up, please. On the other side of that 60, when we get to John's Road, or whatever it is, what's the speed limit on that road?
Sabies.
The Sabis Road, that's 60 kilometer speed limit there.
Okay, thanks.
I don't know if it helps, John, but those roads are used as rat runs now because the population are trying to avoid the main roads, and you've got development all of Horswell. It connects through to Horswell and Wigram, which are all completely built out, and Prebbleton will be built out to there. It's just become a complete rat run, basically, which I think, again, it's sort of part of the town, sadly.
So again, and I apologise for my lack of thing, Ellesmere Road, the speed limit on that?
Ellesmere Road is 80 kilometers speed limit within our network.
And that's because it's more than a rural connector.
It is a rural connector, but it's 80, same as Trices at the moment.
And the justification, I'm assuming, but I'd like confirmation, is that Ellesmere Road is wider and better formed.
Yes, and it's straight.
Yeah, Ellesmere Road is used as pretty much a connector from Lincoln and Green Park through into the city now. It's had a lot of work done on it. It still does go up and down a bit, and it's still got really dangerous intersections on it, but that's another whole issue.
So we've got a motion. Do we want to do the roads separately, or do you want to? Are we comfortable to group them together? What's the thinking?
Can I have an indication from the chair?
Well, my gut instinct is telling me that the Hamptons one, there's good rationale for that. I'm very torn about Trices. If you'd said 70, I would have been easier for me to come to a conclusion. And I can see the end, because this is new information for you about where it gets close to the Christchurch boundary, roughly about halfway along, gets pretty close to the Christchurch boundary. Before I'd seen this, my instinct was to say no, and I'm not sure how convinced otherwise I am. The dial has probably moved. Is that any help to you, John?
Yeah, because again, having not yet reached a final conclusion, that is it Ellesmere Road that joins through there? I would have thought that from Ellesmere Road down to whatever that road is at the Christchurch boundary, that section there, I think 60, but I'm not too convinced about approaching that.
So this is a bit of like the other question about splitting the road. Is it feasible to adjust the 60 zone from the Ellesmere Junction corner through to Sabies and leave the rest as it is for the moment?
We have similar situation at Longstaff Road, which is also 60 on CCC boundary. So that's why we're bringing that whole speed area to 60 rather than splitting sections.
Yeah, well, I guess that's also a question. Would you then leave the side of Sabies that was off the screen as it is, but just theoretically speaking, and make the 60 from the stop sign through to where it joins the Christchurch bit of road, so that whole bit is 60? So John was saying that we curvy bit there, can that be 60 and that stay 80? And then in theory, could this lower part stay 80 and the bit from the stop sign up that joins onto the Christchurch road, could that be 60 and that stay 80?
Yeah, but that whole section is a bit windy on Trices Road between Longstaff and Ellesmere.
Yeah, but so was Gould's, and we stuck with an 80, so that wasn't the question. Is the question technically feasible to do what I described?
Yeah, we may may be able to. We need to
Okay,
do
so
further
maybe that's
assessment.
another one that we park to get a little bit more direction on.
I'm happy to make a if I can have some assistance with the wording that we park that Trices Road.
What's your thoughts about Hamptons Road?
Hamptons Road, if there's a subdivision, I think that it would then sort of be consistent with Gold's Road, lowering it.
Okay, so let's. Do we want to make a move about Hamptons to square that one away and then just leave that?
I'll move that the staff recommendation for Hamptons Road be accepted.
What do you think, Denise? So put your mic on and second that. Denise has seconded it. We'll vote on the Hamptons Road part.
Aye.
So we accept the staff recommendation for Hamptons Road. For the Longstaff and Trices, we're asking for some additional information about whether they could be dealt with in two separate sections, and you've heard what we explained. Hopefully you understand. If you don't, come back and clarify with us, and then we'll come back to those at another point. Timberyard Road.
Could we have clarity on Collins Road, please?
Oh, Collins Road. Sorry, forgot about Collins Road.
Yeah, Collins Road, we proposing from 100 to 60 to suit the development. I think it's Aylesbrook subdivision going in there. It's already, part of it's already completed. And these 60 kilometer speed limit signs are already installed by the developer with the temporary supplementary plates under the TMP. So we're going to permanently change that to 60 and remove the temporary plates to support the development.
Do we know when the timing of that's likely to happen? Like, when are they starting to move people in and you'd make the decision that it's appropriate to change officially?
We need to complete the process of changing the speed limit legally. Once we have council approval, we will approach NSTA for speed certification. Once it's certified, we will need 10 days to legally change the speed limit on National Speed Limit Register.
Okay, so that's the technical part. How far away are they from people moving into that part of the subdivision, do you know?
They're already in the
They're already into
subdivisions
there?
are almost completed. They've completed the roundabout at Collins and Springs.
John?
Yeah, just as a bit of clarification without going too far off board, under what authorities does the developer get the opportunity to lower the speed limit on a temporary basis?
The temporary speed limits are applied through the temporary traffic management plan as part of construction works.
And that's signed off at officer level.
Yes.
Denise?
I support that it's the staff recommendation that it goes down to 60 because I drive out there every day, or not every day, but most days, and it breaks my heart, but it's all being built.
I have a question, probably more for Sophie, around in the written consultation document, the description of Collins Road doesn't match the description that's given here. It said something like 470 metres, where are we? 470 metres from Sergeant's Road. And when we drove round there the other day, Sergeant's Road is the one off to the side there. And so we were quite confused. It's not even in the area. So the question is, given that some people at least would have read that and maybe that influenced their input to the consultation, does that error invalidate the consultation on Collins Road materially or not?
I'd have to double check with the staff that the maps associated with the consultation, if they were correct and it was just something incorrect in the description, then the maps being correct is enough information to say that the proposal was out there. The information was out there for the proposal for the community to consider, notwithstanding the error in the actual wording description. I think it's probably quite clear that most people that would look at the consultation document would look at the maps. So if the maps were correct, I suspect that that's sufficient.
Okay, so can we qualify whatever decision we reach based on that check being undertaken to ensure that people weren't somehow misled about what they were consulting on?
I think I got a nod from over there that the maps were correct for the actual proposal.
I took my maps that I've got on my summary from their interactive map, and they are correct.
They are correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so, John.
Yeah, it went back to my point about the validity of the consultation. I'd like to see a specific statement from legal identifying the situation and then confirming that because the map was accurate, that makes the consultation valid and overrides the error or the misinterpretation, however it's worded in the physical description.
The wording of the physical description did lead us astray when we went on our drive past, because it made no sense, but the map does make sense.
Yeah, so I think if a court was looking at this and if somebody was challenging the decision to reduce it, they would look at the substance of the consultation, not necessarily the specific words. I think, we would suggest that submitters do look at the maps, and that's the primary way in which submitters learn and understand what the actual proposal is. So so my recommendation would be that there is sufficient evidence that the submitters would have understood what was being proposed, and that's what the courts look at if they were looking at a challenge to a council decision to reduce the speed limit.
So do I need to move for that to be put in writing and be part of the determination of the record?
As part of the record, my advice will be in the minutes. If you would like to seek further detailed advice and peer review of my advice, absolutely, we can do that if the councillors request that.
My personal preference would be for a peer review, please.
Okay, so that means we'll park that road with the other ones in this group.
I'm happy for the motion to go ahead, subject to the successful peer review.
Okay. Then do we have a motion for Collins Road?
Yep. I'll move that the council provide legal confirmation peer reviewed as to the integrity of the consultation given the discrepancy in the wording, and that on the basis that confirms that the consultation was valid, that the officer's recommendation be accepted. And I'm happy for minor wording.
Do you want to second that, Denise? Okay, Denise seconded it. She didn't have a mic on, but she did. So let's vote on that. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye. It's carried. So subject to that check, then we agree with Collins Road change.
Mr. Chair, just noting that it's gone 4 o'clock, so that's 2 hours. We either need to adjourn or move a resolution to continue at this stage. Either way, a break following that might be a good
I
idea
suggest
too.
that we break for 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes, 5 minutes, and then we'll discuss whether we can go a bit longer.
I'll move.
John has moved that. Denise has seconded that. All those in favour of adjourning for a brief break? Carried. So we'll stop the live stream and we'll take a breather and reconvene. The next road in that grouping is Timber Yard Road. So I'll ask the staff to give us an explanation about that piece of road.
Yes, Timber Yard Road is currently classified as a rural road, but being mainly accessed to use the camping ground at the end. So we recommend changing the road classification from rural road to a stopping place, because it's been used as a tourist place. So the recommended speed limit is from 100 bringing down to 60 km/h for the access towards a camping ground, and the camping ground to be treated as a car park area, which should be the speed limit of 20 km/h. That's already been sign posted as 20 km/h through the car park area. So we fixing the anomaly of signs and the speed limit record, which says it's 100 legally.
Any questions? No questions on that one?
I'll just ask, how did it come about? Because it's a very sort of out on the edge place and not used by much traffic.
There were many requests from the residents who used to live there.
Sorry, what was that?
It came to community request to bring down the speed limit because of increased traffic in peak times, and tourist destination who are not familiar with the road, trying to access the car park for camping. And there is some wildlife crossing across this road, which had many accidents reported with killed some native birds.
I presume there's not too many residents on the road, but there was about 13 residents in relation to the first part, and 4 of them said they're for the reduction, 7 of them are against, and 5 to 6 on the second part. So you can just explain a little bit about the residents' requests? Did it come through a residents' association or community group or a large number of emails?
I think we received few emails from residents living there. It's not a community group. It's just personal requests. But when we looked into the road, we saw this anomaly of 20 km/h sign posted there, but it's legally 100, and which is being used as an access to the car park. So we considered that section as not a rural road, rather than it's a stopping place, which is being just mainly used to reach the camping ground for tourists.
I'm happy to move both stretches. It's a domain, it's a campground. There would be kids around. It's extremely rural. So I'm happy to take the staff recommendation on both of those and move both.
I'll second.
Any discussion? No? I think the 20 kilometre one is pretty much a no-brainer. When I was initially reading through the material, I wondered if the 60k section was too slow, but now I'm looking at it on a map and how long it is. It's only a 2k stretch of road. It goes into a dead end, into an area that's going, well, should be 20k's we're talking about, and is already signposted as 20, you're saying, so yeah, I'm leaning towards supporting this. So we'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Aye. So that one, well, those 2 roads in fact are carried. Both parts of Timber Yard Road, we accept the staff recommendation. So now we move to section G. These are the roads around Burnham, Dunsandel, Hororata and Rolleston, and I'll hand over to the staff to start talking us through.
Even though it's been grouped, it doesn't necessarily need to be considered as a whole single group. I think a couple of them can be considered as a group, like Christensen Parade and Rahutu Way within the Rolleston Town Centre could be or need to be considered as a group. But and Leaston Dunsandel Road and Dunsandel Brookside Road need to be considered as a group, but Hororata Road and Aylesbury Road should be considered as alone. So the first one is Aylesbury Road, which we proposing to extend the 60 kilometer speed limit at the boundary of the military camp towards the or 60 meter past the Two Chain Road intersection. So this road is currently at 100 km per hour with vehicles accelerating towards the intersections, and the other way vehicle approaching speed is higher towards the campground where there is a high pedestrian activity crossing the camping ground across the military area.
Questions, Denise?
Oh, it's not.
Not a question.
Oh, that's quick. Yeah, this stage, looking at it, what they're saying is sort of going down to 60 may be a bit of a drop. What was the reason for going for 60 instead of 80?
The remaining part of Aylesbury Road down the military camp is already 60. So if we propose 80, then it will be 180 and 60 different speed limits. So 60 just extending the existing 60 past the intersection.
John already asked my question. Denise?
Oh, I was just going to move it because I believe it should be reduced to 60 because it is past the, leading past from the military camp, and also it leads into that intersection there, the Two Chain Grange Road one, which has got, there's like 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. It's the worst intersection probably that could ever exist. There's 71 support it, 140 against, and 103 with no view. So that doesn't really help us. There's been one minor crash, but the changes could make a 40% reduction in crashes. 3,208 vehicle movements per day. Just that intersection is so dangerous. So I would support that and move that we accept the staff recommendation.
Just as a technical one, the 60 limit before the intersection, is there flexibility to move that back a little bit to give a bit more time to slow down?
Does that mean reducing the proposed length or increasing? Oh yes, that can be.
Because I know the intersection's got good visibility, but people do approach it, and if we're going to have the speed change, that it may be, if it's still within the parameters, a little bit more warning.
So Denise moved it. Do we have a seconder? So John seconded it. Now, discussion. No, Denise, yep.
I'd be happy to, like John says, extend it a bit further away from the intersection. That's fine.
Can we say from 60 meter to increase that to 100.
If that's possible, that would be, I think, a good safety factor.
Yes.
So, do we need to specifically record that, Sophie, or is the generally 60 a sufficiently approximate description that 100 is fine? Okay, so Sophie's advising for those listening that generally 60 metres is close enough to 100 that we give you that discretion. So let's vote on that one. All those in favour? Aye. Aye. Carried. So that was Aylesbury Road. What do we got next? Hororata Road, is that the next one we're looking at? No.
Christensen
Christensen.
Parade. And
I'm looking on the wrong list. Christensen Parade and Rahutu Parade. So you want to talk us through those two?
yes, so Christensen Parade and Rahutu Way are new roads which was built as part of the Rolleston Town Centre upgrade. So as part of the design, it's been designed as a 30 kilometer speed limit area, which is already signposted there as a 30 kilometer speed limit stretch, but the legal speed limit was not changed at that time when the construction was finished or the signs were installed. So the legal speed limit of these two sections of road remains at 50 as part of the remaining urban traffic area within the Rolleston. But so we fixing the anomaly of signs and legal record by changing the legal limit to 30 km per hour to suit the signs and the design.
John?
Yeah, just a comment. Strong support for a 30 kilometre per hour environment in a high pedestrian and community activity. I'm not quite too sure whether the actual submissions support that, but moving that, I'm generally agree with both of them.
Denise?
Can I move both of them as they're already signposted as 30 and they are in high activity shopping areas? And I note it says that the 50 is the average for the rest of Rolleston, but I would love to see that drop to 40 at some stage, if that can be noted somewhere. But yeah, happy to move both of these because it's already pretty much done.
John has indicated he will second that. Any discussion? No, I'll just comment that I support it. It's fixing an anomaly, as Ravi said. It's already signposted at 30 and you go through that place. It is almost like driving through a car park with kids' playgrounds and stuff, so it makes a lot of sense to just tidy up that anomaly. So let's vote on that. All those in favour? Aye. Right, carried. Thank you. So we accept both Christensen Parade and Rahutu Way's recommendation. Dunsandel Brookside Road. Is that what we're looking at there? Yep. So go talk us through that, please.
Yeah, so this should be considered as a group, Dunsandel Brookside on Leaston Dunsandel Road. The targeted road is Leaston Dunsandel Road, which is currently 60 km per hour through the Dunsandel urban area, which we proposing to reduce to 50 to suit the road environment as local street. And the Dunsandel Brookside Road is connecting as part of the intersection, so that leg is also included, which is currently posted as 60 to change it to 50 km per hour. Yes.
Questions, John?
Yeah, so at the top, I presume that continues into a 50 zone already round Dunsandel.
Yes, that's 50 at the top.
No other questions? Denise?
No. I'd move that both of them, we follow the staff recommendation and reduce them from 60 to 50 because it's an urban area, so it's in keeping with the other areas.
Do we have anyone second? John wants a second. Discussion. Denise.
Oh, I should just add that from submissions, it was sort of 81 or 75 in support and 145 against, but an 89 no view, or 75 support and 136 oppose and 101 no view. Estimated speed at the moment is 63 kilometres per hour. So I think it would be good to bring the speed down to 50.
The only comment I would make is there is a reasonable degree of opposition, and the locals are sort of pretty much 50 split. There's not a lot of safety evidence that we can utilise, and it's a wide road, got footpaths. There's only houses on one side of the road. That's not likely to change at the moment. We don't know of any subdivisions, do we? Should have asked that one question time.
No, not aware of any subdivisions proposed there, but coming from State Highway, we going into a 50 zone at the top, then we changing to 60 to 100, so it's a few changes within the short length, and we got a school along Irwin's Road where people walk, kids walk along from the top to the school, so I think it should be a 50 kilometer within that Dunsandel urban rather than going a 60 through that, which brings a consistency across that whole area.
Okay, no more comments. Put it to the vote. All those in favour? Aye. Carried. So that's both Dunsandel Brookside and Leaston Dunsandel. To Hororata Road.
Hororata Road is a rural connector road. Again, this is proposed to extend the 60 kilometer speed limit at the Hororata boundary further for 100, around few hundred meters to suit the domain access and the pedestrian movements from the community center towards the Hororata domain access. This was a request came from Hororata community, which we included and considered as a good safety measure to extend the 60 past the domain entrance to bring down the speeds to a better, safer.
Any questions?
Yeah. No, look, I think that this one here, we had a submission from the Go Hororata, the Residents Association, in support and reasonable support within the locality. Maybe not quite so much support for the people passing through. I think the key things are that there's the Hororata domain on the left as you're heading towards State Highway, whatever it is, Leafs Road, up to the mountains. And then you've got the Hororata Hall, which is going to be redeveloped, hopefully. So there's definitely community support. And the one submitter that presented also expressed the community view. And I think that when you're looking at the word generally, there would be community support, in my view, to actually have a look at the domain and the environment where the entrances are, because the majority view in the community, from what I can ascertain, is that they'd be keen on a more generous thing, so that if there's an entranceway and you can get that within the generally, that would just make it better. Thank you.
Do we have anyone who wants to move?
Yeah, I was going to say I will move it on because the submissions that we received specifically, the spoken one was very clear, very supportive. It clearly would make it safer for the community, kids, dogs, horses. There's 1,630 vehicle movements per day on this road, which for a tiny rural village is quite a lot, and probably increasing because I know they do a great job of promoting themselves out there. So, I'll move that is
Do
60.
we have a seconder? John's stuck his hand up, so any discussion?
I'm voting.
Denise?
No. Good.
Do you want to make any comments, John? No? Yeah, we drove out there together a little while ago, looked at it, yes, and you can see on the map there's a number of entries and exits out of the domain, so it made sense to just push that 60 kilometre out a little bit further to slow people down coming through that a little bit busier area, so I'll be in support of it. And if there's no more comments, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye, carried. So we agree with the Hororata Road recommendation. What do we got here? Greendale Road, is it? Greendale. So over to you guys.
Yes, so the next group is Darfield, which we have 3 sections: Greendale Road, Telegraph Road, and McLaughlin's Road. Should be considered as a group. The proposal is to suit the proposed residential growth around Darfield, which is within the operative district plans, and the subdivisions are already on go between Telegraph Road and Greendale Road, and I think that the consent application is in consideration for the subdivision between Greendale Road and McLaughlin's Road, which is being indicated within the green, dark green shade within the map.
Any questions?
Sorry, can you just explain again the dark green section of the map?
That's the proposed development area under the operative district plan, where we are allowing residential growth, zoned as residential growth zone, where medium density houses will be.
Thank you. Just 1 minute, please, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
So again, what about somewhere between 60 and 80? Because 50 was just seemed to be that I know there's a subdivision and awaiting confirmation of the status of this application. Driving past, they're already in, hopefully not in anticipation of getting the resource consent, but having the resource consent, they're already starting to prepare for the subdivision. But there are a limited number of entries and exits to the subdivision, and whilst the people living in the area are 12 for and 9 against, people that are passing through are sort of 114 to 76 against, and I'm just wondering whether or not taking it down to 50 kilometres is just a step too far, but I realise that further down the road you're going up to 100 kilometres.
So the proposed sections are where we have road environment changing, and we'll have footpath curbs from a rural or peri-urban environment to a urban local road. So to suit the proposed road environment and road classification, we are proposing 50. That is what it is will be designed for within the subdivision or development.
Thank you.
So the the bigger shaded green area, that's a subdivision that's on the go at the moment. Did I understand that right?
Yeah, the between Telegraph Road and Greendale Road, the top part is already under construction.
Yeah.
The Greendale Road and McLaughlin's Road, that one, the consent application in process. I don't think a consent has been granted yet. But the bottom part of Telegraph Road that goes to Craig Road, that is yet to be developed. So that's why we haven't included that section of Greendale Road to be extending 50, which will be in future if that goes ahead.
So if we make a decision to make these changes, can you essentially sit on those changes until the development progresses sufficiently that people driving through that environment will see that it makes sense for those roads to be 50?
Yeah, this will be only changed as part of the development works and will be completed by the developer or the contractor who building the development, not council funded.
Okay, so for absolute clarity, if we vote to make that 50, you're not going to do the paperwork and then 2 weeks later the signs will be changed to 50. Meanwhile, it's still nobody living there.
No,
Good.
it won't happen like
Because
that.
and I ask that for people who might be watching us, that we're aware we don't want to create speed changes so that they're driving past paddocks, which we know is going to be built into houses, but they're thinking, why is this? Because it feels stupid. So that's just useful context for everybody to understand. Denise?
I'm happy to move all three on the fact that there's going to be subdivision there, obviously waiting on that delay until the subdivision actually happens.
John has... John,
Sorry.
Can I ask that it be taken individually?
yeah. So do you want to... okay, are there any that you're in a position that you're happy to make a call at the moment? Or all of them, I suppose?
Well, I suppose at the moment, Greendale, I would support the officer's recommendation to be implemented once subdivision is substantially underway. And at the moment, Telegraph Road, I'm looking for further information from the staff and my colleagues to make a decision. And McLaughlin's Road, yeah, again, I'd just like to hear a little bit more.
So maybe, Denise, are you prepared to just amend your motion that we'll just talk about Greendale Road to start with?
Yep. Let's do
you happy
Greendale
to second
Road.
Greendale Road, John?
Yep.
John nodded. So now we have discussion about Greendale Road.
Oh, I've not got anything to say.
Yeah, I think just stating the obvious that it's green fields at the moment, and there's nothing worse than sort of driving past and then seeing that there's rural subdivisions on the right if you're going out of Darfield, and then just green fields on the right, on the left. So I'd feel comfortable of saying, given the amount of proposed houses that are probably likely to be approved, that I don't, I realise that's an area outside the ambit, but I'm just saying that looking at what's proposed, the number of houses is probably mitigated from a speed perspective by the exits onto the actual road, which is moderate.
So Telegraph Road then, that's the one we're talking about, isn't it, Telegraph? Greendale, sorry, thank you. If there's no more comment on Greendale, we vote on Greendale. All those in favour? Confirmed Greendale has been approved with the caveat that we're anticipating it won't be implemented until the development progresses so that people understand why the change has been made. The next road then is it McLaughlin's or Telegraph you want to talk about first, John?
We'll go with McLaughlin's.
Okay, so do we have questions about McLaughlin's or do we want to move and then discuss?
Got the questions that, again, the proximity to Darfield High School, I just find a little bit challenging considering that Darfield High School down McLaughlin's Road is probably on the other side of the CE of Place, and there's a temporary 30 zone there that McLaughlin's Road is extending pretty well up. And I suppose my question is that is McLaughlin's Road beating the gun, given the fact that there's that white area that's undeveloped? I can see the benefits on the other side, but it just seems that looking at McLaughlin's Road, there's a little bit more resistance because once you actually get to Stotts Road, you are pretty much going into a although the road's peri-urban, I would say you're going much into a rural limit.
So that section of McLaughlin Road is currently classified as a peri-urban road, which got high, low density residential along one side, but we have a proposal of a bigger medium density development on the other side, which will change the road environment to a from a peri-urban to local urban road. That proposed 650 is to suit that change in road environment, and which will be only implemented once the road is being built for that environment with footpaths, pedestrian crossings, all that urban features. So it's not going to happen before that.
So are we putting the cart before the horse, and should we just hold fire?
Yeah, because of this lengthy process of changing the legal speed limit on a road, this one we are aware that this is going to happen. We're just getting the process started. Otherwise, like Collins Road, we have a 60 environment currently with roundabout already built, which got a legal speed limit of 100. Now we need to wait for the legal speed limit to be changed. That's why we have a temporary speed limit there, which maximum we can use the temporary speed limit is 1 year.
Oh, I'm happy to move it with the caveat that it's not done until, it's needed to be done.
Yeah, I'll second it that we wait until it's substantially finished.
Discussion, if there's any further discussion. No, well, we, Denise? Oh, no, Denise is already, she's keen to vote. Okay. So we're talking about McLaughlin's Road. All those in favour of the recommendation, noting the caveat around not enacting anything until there's sufficient development. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Aye, that's carried. Telegraph Road next. Questions on Telegraph Road?
I'd quite like to hear from the officers.
What do you got to tell us about Telegraph Road?
Yeah, same to suit the proposed development. The top part close to the close to Cardale Street, that's already being developed. there are a couple of intersections proposed. Looking at the plan, there will be minimum around 13 residential access within that development, which is further going to extend. They already installed a pedestrian refuge island crossing on that section, with further footpath network is being built. So again, to suit the road environment change and the classification of road changes, proposing to bring down the 60 to 50, which will be only implemented as part of the development by the contractor who built it.
Yeah. I suppose if you're heading out of Darfield, they haven't installed one of those little traffic islands right in the middle, but it's a very narrow road and trucks have less than a few centimetres either side when they go past the traffic island in the middle just at the start past the Catholic Church. But leaving that aside, on the left-hand side you've got the first stage 1 of Darfield Estate, and it's got 3 entry egress exit points to the considerable number of houses, probably about 250. And I noticed that this one here has been approved by our planning department, and they were, I presume, reasonably satisfied that there would be a large number of houses, 13 to be precise, that would have direct access onto Telegraph Road. And they, I believe, I haven't seen the report, didn't raise any issues about the current speed limit when the resource consent was approved for the 13 houses to have direct access onto Telegraph Road. There's a large grass berm on probably about 2 metres on either side of the road. I know there's high pedestrian access, but most of the pedestrians avoid the closeness to the road and walk on the other side. And whilst the residents support it, 17 to 11, there's quite a large amount that don't, and it's a rural connector road. So given the fact that the stage 2 of the subdivision was approved with direct access to the road and no apparent issues in relation to the traffic, at this stage, keeping an open mind, I'm mindful to not approve the recommendation.
Any further questions, or do we have a motion and then discuss?
I'm happy to move that the officer's recommendation not be accepted.
I will second that so that we can have a conversation. Who wants to make comments? Where are we?
Just let me get my thoughts together.
Yep.
Again, there's not overwhelming support, and it is a rural connector road, and when you drive along it, driving along at 60 kilometres an hour does seem quite slow, and the distinguishing factors, in my view, are the approximate 2 metre grass berm on either side of the road. And as I said, that what I would distinguish this subdivision from other subdivisions along other roads that we've discussed today is that although there are 13 houses that are going to have direct access to Telegraph Road, on one side of the road there is room to mitigate it through road widening, and also the fact that it's an approved subdivision, and on the basis that there's nothing before me at the moment on which to decide otherwise, our planning department were quite happy with approving 13 new houses on that side of the road, with the current speed limit as it was then at 60 kilometres an hour.
Denise?
Yeah, that is unfortunate that planning did that. I support the staff motion to reduce the speed, and I can't do that though, can I? Because have you moved it and seconded it?
You can say that you won't be in support of.
Okay, I
the
won't be in
motion.
support of the motion.
I look at the data and listening to what John's saying, and a 10-kilometre reduction in speed results in a 3-kilometre decrease in the estimated future speed from 58 to 55, which will turn people into speeders, breaking the limit. Probably doesn't achieve a lot in terms of safety, just dropping by 3 kilometres. So it sort of looks like we're solving a problem that doesn't exist. And on that basis, plus what the additional context John put around this, planners presumably having assessed it as not making material impact to the safety of that road and needing any speed adjustments or mitigations, I would tend to lean towards not doing anything at the moment as well. Denise?
I just think it would come back to it's the uniformity of the township and keeping speed limits the same. But that would be me.
My comment there, without getting into a ping pong match, is that Darfield, in my view, has a natural break. As you come down Telegraph Road and you go past the Catholic Church, they've got that little traffic island, and then on the left-hand side going out, you've got a section probably of about 200 metres of lifestyle blocks, and then you've got the part one of the subdivision which has just 3 entry-exit roads, and also the fact is too that the wording in the document didn't quite align with the wording in the cost-benefit disclosure statement, and there may have been some confusion, but looking at it being a rural connector, and it does have a high volume of traffic, and I know one non-injury accident in the last 5 years isn't acceptable, but given the crash data, the projected reduction in speeds, and the fact that 56% of those who responded that weren't living locally were opposed to the limit, I think just taking it down to 50 is just a step too far.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, we're voting on John's motion, which remember is to not accept the staff's advice to reduce it to 50 kilometres an hour at this point in time. So those in favour of not accepting the advice to reduce the speed, please say aye. Aye. That's 2 of us, that's carried. Denise, do you want to have your opposition recorded? Please record Denise's position. And now we're at 5 o'clock, and I think that's probably a good point to bring the discussion today to a close and adjourn to discuss the remainder at a future point in time. So can I have someone move that, please? John, Denise is seconded. All those in favour of adjourning? Aye. Thank you very much. Thank you to the staff for staying later and giving us your wisdom. Thank you. If we... do we do a closing karakia when we're adjourning? Okay, so we can move to the closing karakia. Nia, anuhia, tapo, kia watia, ai kua watia. Thank you very much. We'll let people know when the next session of this deliberation will resume. Thank you.
No, and thank you to the staff.